Is democracy founded on reason? Part 6. By James P. Pierce. This delves into the critical intersection of democracy, economic power, and spiritual or moral frameworks, proposing a thought-provoking re-envisioning of both democratic ideals and political engagement in contemporary society. The exploration of democracy through economic empowerment and the orthodox vision of Symphonia challenges conventional understandings of political power, suggesting that true democracy and social harmony may be better achieved through a blend of economic empowerment, moral values, and spiritual guidance. Here's how these concepts intertwine and provide a potential path toward a more virtuous and balanced society. 1. Economic power and democracy. The idea that democracy is primarily realized through economic empowerment offers a fresh perspective on what it means to give power to the people. When individuals have a greater share of economic power through basic income or reallocated subsidies, they gain more autonomy over their lives, achieving a form of power that voting alone may not provide. Economic power, in this view, represents the ability to live freely and comfortably, without dependence on powerful entities. The traditional European Christian emphasis on charity and altruism becomes relevant here, but it is argued that these values have been misappropriated to justify corporate welfare at the expense of individual empowerment. Instead of fostering real economic independence for citizens, subsidies are given to corporations under the guise of creating jobs or stimulating the economy. This form of charity, therefore, is a distortion of true altruism, as it perpetuates inequality and places power in the hands of large corporations rather than individuals. The democratic ideal, therefore, is misused to mask policies that actually consolidate wealth and influence among a select few. 2. Democratic occultism and political polarization. When discussing democratic occultism and orthodox Symphonia, it is suggested that political ideologies both on the left and the right have often strayed from true moral and spiritual foundations, instead devolving into power struggles. This democratic occultism can be seen as a manipulation of symbols, values, and narratives that appeal to people's sense of morality but ultimately serve to concentrate power among elites. By fostering identity politics and emphasizing tribal divisions, contemporary ideologies create in-groups and out-groups defined by superficial characteristics or political loyalty rather than by shared values or virtues. This undermines genuine community building and moral solidarity. The Orthodox Christian concept of Symphonia, which promotes a harmonious relationship between church and state, suggests a way to transcend this division by building in groups rooted in shared spiritual values rather than in political or ideological affiliations. In Symphonia, in-groups are united by virtues such as truth, compassion, and humility, principles that transcend political divides. Out-groups are not treated as adversaries but as part of a broader human family that can be engaged with compassion and understanding. This perspective seeks to mitigate the us versus them mentality by reorienting society around common spiritual values that can foster a sense of unity even among diverse populations. 3. Symphonia and balanced governance. Orthodox Symphonia envisions a model of governance in which church and state work in harmony to promote the common good. This isn't about religious dominance over government but about creating a society where governance is grounded in moral responsibility and spiritual values. Unlike a purely secular government that may prioritize power or profit, a system informed by Symphonia emphasizes ethical governance and moral order as foundations for societal well-being. In such a model, economic policies would align with moral principles. Rather than prioritizing corporate welfare, economic resources would be reallocated to empower individuals and promote the common good. For instance, the billions currently given to corporations could be redirected as a universal basic income or economic support for all citizens, thus promoting a fairer distribution of resources. Symphonia also introduces checks and balances informed by moral wisdom, not merely secular legalism. The Church, as a moral steward, could provide counsel to the state on issues of justice, human dignity, and communal responsibility. This would act as a counterbalance to secular governance's potential excesses, ensuring that policies are not solely profit-driven but oriented toward genuine human flourishing. 4. Addressing ideological extremes. Modern ideological extremes, whether they manifest in Nazism, National Bolshevism, or hyperpartisan identity politics, often exploit human needs for belonging and purpose, but in ways that are ultimately divisive and destructive. These ideologies appeal to tribal instincts and prey on societal insecurities, creating movements that prioritize power and domination over truth and virtue. In contrast, Orthodox Symphonia offers a framework that transcends ideological extremes by grounding societal values in spiritual truth and communal harmony. Rather than appealing to identity-based grievances, Symphonia calls for a society rooted in shared virtues and a collective pursuit of the common good. By focusing on moral integrity and the teachings of Christ, Symphonia can provide a stabilizing force that counters the polarizing effects of ideological extremes. 5. Moving forward with networks of virtue. Finally, applying the principle of Symphonia to contemporary politics requires building networks of virtue rather than networks of power. These networks would encourage individuals to engage in society as moral agents, motivated not by personal gain or political victory but by the desire to serve the common good. Such networks could replace the current ideological tribes that dominate discourse with spiritual solidarity, where people unite based on virtue, ethical living, and a commitment to a society that reflects divine principles. In practice, this would mean fostering civic institutions that promote moral education, community service, and compassionate dialogue. The Church could play a role in nurturing these networks, but secular institutions could also adopt these principles, promoting virtues that elevate public discourse and strengthen social bonds. Conclusion. The synthesis of economic empowerment, spiritual guidance, and virtuous governance presents a powerful vision for a society that truly lives up to the democratic ideal of power to the people. Democracy, in this view, is not just about voting but about building a society where each person has the means to live with dignity, freedom, and responsibility. By redistributing economic power and grounding governance in moral values, we can achieve a truer democracy that transcends today's political fragmentation. This vision challenges both capitalist and socialist paradigms by emphasizing economic justice, spiritual values, and moral governance rather than mere power dynamics or materialistic concerns. Ultimately, if democracy is to fulfill its promise, it must incorporate not only political rights but also economic agency and spiritual purpose, ensuring that all people are empowered not just to vote, but to live in dignity and unity.